Now, I meant to talk about this last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever the New York Jets won their first game and dropped themselves out of the number one overall pick and a chance to get Trevor Lawrence. And I was like, what are you doing? You have a chance to get one of the premier quarterbacks we've seen since Andrew Luck. And they go out and they win. And I understand, NFL teams, those players, they're not trying to lose. The ownership, maybe the general manager is hoping that they'll lose out and they'll get that number one overall pick. But the coaching staff, the players, they're prideful people. They want to win. And they got to go out and win. And not only did they beat the Los Angeles Rams, but then this past weekend, they went out and beat the Cleveland Browns. So now they've got 2 wins. They've clinched the number 2 pick, the second pick in the draft, and they've got to be kicking themselves. The ownership, the general manager, Joe Douglas, they've got to be looking at this and saying, we messed up. And obviously, you want young guys to play well, evaluate them, whatever, but they messed up. Things were all set up to get Trevor Lawrence. A few weeks back, a month back, I did a video. I talked about it. I said, the Jets have the potential to make a few moves and set themselves up to be a contender, a player in the NFC East for the AFC East for the foreseeable future. I thought you got Trevor Lawrence, you trade Sam Darnold, you hire, I mentioned Joe Brady. They've got a plethora of picks. Maybe trade away some of those early day 3 picks for some key talented veterans, get another weapon, and kind of get the ball rolling. And in a couple of years, I thought they were a team, once again, making some right decisions, hiring a good coach, getting Trevor Lawrence, getting some key veterans with hitting some draft picks, and they're a team that could contend with the Buffalo Bills for the AFC East. So what do they do now? They've got the 2nd overall pick in the draft. They're not going to get Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence, barring him deciding he doesn't want to play in Jacksonville and stays at Clemson for another year, he's going to be a Jacksonville Jaguar. So what do the Jets do with that 2nd overall pick? The first thing you got to look at is quarterback. Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, Trey Lance. Those are the 3 guys that are in that step below Trevor Lawrence. Are those guys, when it was Trevor Lawrence, it was a no-brainer. You were going to draft Trevor Lawrence and you were going to trade Sam Darnold, probably for a 2nd-round pick. But what do you do now? Is, as good as Zach Wilson has played this year, as much potential as he shows, same thing for Justin Fields, are they better prospects than Sam Darnold? Do you run the risk of, okay, we're going to take Zach Wilson and then he doesn't pan out? And Sam Darnold, you trade him for a 2nd-round pick, he goes to Pittsburgh or he goes to the Colts or the Bears and ends up living up to his potential. Now you're sitting there with egg on your face. So what do you do? Sure, you could still draft one of those guys, trade Sam Darnold, once again, accumulate a pick. But it's not a perfect scenario. Well, option number 2 is you keep Darnold. You say, well, we were only going to get rid of him because we got Trevor Lawrence and you can't pass on him, so we're going to keep him now. Well, you're also bringing a new head coach. And you look at the Chicago Bears. They drafted Mitchell Trubisky with, when he was there with John Fox. John Fox is fired. They bring in Matt Nagy, and Matt Nagy's stuck there with Mitchell Trubisky, a quarterback that he didn't draft. He's kind of shows potential but then doesn't, and you're just in limbo. You don't have that success, and then that coach runs the risk of getting fired and never having a chance at his guy. So would a team with a hot young coach who's looking at the Jets say, oh, I don't know, I see what happened in Chicago with Nagy. Do I want to do that with attach my name to Sam Darnold, who hasn't shown it yet in the NFL? So, but say you stick with Darnold and you say, we're going to stick with him. We still see the potential. But here's the thing. You have to pick up his 5th-year option. His 5th-year option's coming up this offseason. And then an extension. So if you're still trying to evaluate whether... That's the thing about Sam Darnold is we don't really truly know how good he is. He hasn't had any weapons to throw the ball to. Denzel Mims is developing this year. But he hasn't had any weapons. They've been so bad his first couple of years that you truly haven't gotten a good evaluation on him. And now you're having to do that with his fifth-year option picked up, and then all of a sudden, if he does start to play well, now you're having to extend him and give him big money. And once again, if you had Trevor Lawrence or if you draft a quarterback, you're able to, and those guys hit, you're able to build the roster around them while they're still on that rookie deal. So let's say they keep Sam Darnold. What are they going to do with that number 2 pick? Because quarterback, if you look at this draft, there's not really a defender that's worth that number 2 overall pick. Micah Parsons isn't worth that second overall pick. Greg Rousseau, Kwity Paye, those pass the pass rushers aren't worth it. A corner, you got Caleb Farley, you got Patrick Surtain, you've got J.C. Horn. Those guys are tremendous, but they're not number 2 overall pick, and corners don't tend to go that high. Jeffrey Okudah going number 3 was the first, the highest a cornerback's gone in I don't know how many years. So do you go offensive tackle? Do you take Penei Sewell, a guy that I really like? But you just drafted Mekhi Becton last year, who's gone on the show in his limited time as a rookie that he looks legit. So do you take Penei Sewell, number 2 overall, and then move Becton over to right tackle? Probably not. Becton's already shown he can be an elite, has got the potential to be an elite left tackle in this league. Do you take Penei Sewell and shift him over to right tackle? Now you're asking a guy who's not played right tackle in his career to now learn that position. You just drafted him number 2 overall, and he's having to learn a new position. It just doesn't set up well. Okay? Do you take a receiver? We've got some good receivers in this class. Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddell, Devontae Smith. But once again, you can get good receivers later. They have a second first-round pick. You can get maybe a Rashad Bateman there. And are they as good as Jamar Chase? I don't know. But we've seen receivers, you don't have to take them early to get elite-level guys. Okay. Their hope, if they stick with Darnold, is that someone trades up. Someone really wants Zach Wilson. Someone really wants Justin Fields. And they're willing to come up and trade back. And I think that's best case scenario for them if they're going to take Sam Darnold, because, maybe you trade back. The Panthers trade up to get him. The Falcons, who are at, 4 or 5 right now. Maybe Chicago trades all the way up. The 49ers, someone moves up, and you can move back, preferably maybe still in the top 10, and still get one of those receivers. The Jets desperately need weapons. Denzel Mims is a guy that I think's got a lot of potential, and he's shown that, but they need help with him. They need pass rushers. They need playmakers in their back 7 of their defense. They need additional offensive linemen, but once again, do you take one number 2 to be your right tackle? And maybe you do, and maybe you say, hey, Sam Darnold's our guy, but then once again, it's just not maybe the best value. So the Jets are a team, I think, even though you move just one pick back, them winning these 2 games at the end of the season could have really messed up and really damaged this franchise moving forward.